I think it's really hard if you've spent your whole life as a founder and your identity is tied up in being a founder. Although I think now, as you know, there's a lot of founders who should just be bootstrapping and not raising VC. I am so excited about founders who have a lens on taste.
Welcome to Trailblazers, the podcast where we sit down with contrarian tech leaders who found conventional success in unconventional ways. Today on the show, I am so excited to be joined by Amber Atherton. Amber is a British entrepreneur and investor based in San Francisco. She's a partner at Patron, an early-stage venture capital firm shaping the future of gaming and online communities, and the founder of the Atherton Award, which honors young women pursuing careers in STEM and entrepreneurship. A lifelong builder, Amber began coding as a kid in Hong Kong before founding Zyper, a Y Combinator-backed community software startup that used NLP and computer vision to connect creators and their top fans. Zyper was later acquired by Discord, where Amber led growth, launched new international markets, and spearheaded revenue initiatives. Recognized by Forbes 30 Under 30 and Business Insider's Rising Stars in VC, Amber continues to shape the future of community, technology, and venture. Let's welcome Amber Atherton. Hey, Amber.
Woo! Hello. Hello.
Hello, world.
Hello,
How you doing
world.
today?
I'm good. Honestly, we had quite a late night last night at Versi, the founder space here in New York, doing a little event. So if I sound a little raspy, that's
You were out partying hard. I was going to ask you, how was it?
It was
the vibe?
amazing. I love this space. Shout out to the Versi crew. There's some incredible consumer founders working out of this space. And my partner Jason and I did a little kind of workshop on growth secrets from Discord and Riot. So we'll be back again soon.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
It's an exclusive invite. I actually know that they did not accept a lot of people because everyone wanted to get into this event. So if you were there, shout out. Pretty epic. What was the growth secret that you shared that you can share here?
Oh, okay.
I know there were a lot, but if you can share one growth secret for our listeners.
All right, one growth secret coming fresh from
Let's
the
hear it.
Discord lore.
Okay.
So when you start a server on Discord, one of the things you have to think about is, what am I going to name this server? And interestingly, a lot of people who come into Discord to start a server end up dropping off at that point because coming up with a name for your server is just too hard. So one day a PM friend of mine decided, why don't we just suggest names that people can call these servers? And that was like an hour code push and dramatically increased conversion on sign up. So there you go. You want people to complete your onboarding? Come up with suggested group names or usernames for them.
Wow. I feel like that can be applied to so many different parts of the onboarding flow is like suggest what you think it should be, suggest what the username should be, suggest what the answer should be. Like you should prompt people along the way.
100%. I think it's also going to get easier when more onboarding is just done via voice, which I think we're seeing a lot of now anyway. Less kind of looking down, typing when you were born, which I don't think I've ever actually typed correctly. More voice.
I know, it's always, especially in like the UK, it's always like flipped, right?
Oh, yes. I still am doing Celsius, not Fahrenheit, but my American husband is like, you really gotta.
He's like, it's about time. You gotta learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Okay, so before we get into the meat of the interview, I do like to start with a bit of a sharp, deep question. Okay, we're gonna go right for the jugular.
All right.
So, and you can take this question personal, professional, whatever you'd like. Okay, so. We ask this to all our guests. This podcast is a lot about choosing the hard path and getting through the hard moments. So what has been the hardest part of your career journey so far? And actually, I'll say journey so far more broadly, not necessarily career. The moment that almost broke you.
Wow. Okay, let's get vulnerable straight away. Well, I think, a lot of like personal stuff is hard to deal with, like personal, whether it's like family or health, like that kind of just goes on in the background and you're still trying to run your career. And so I think there's been times when I've had family stuff going on that has been difficult to deal with and remain kind of boxed out from my like day-to-day life. And I think that's kind of a skill and superpower you end up developing is being able to just compartmentalize things that are happening. So just want to say props to everybody that's dealing with, maybe more family things that are going on while you're trying to build your startup or meet great founders, you have to build this skill of compartmentalizing. So that's on the personal side. I just want to say everyone look after their mental health and their family.
How do you do that well? Especially because I know so much of your family's overseas.
Yes.
And we're recording this in New York, but you're in SF. So you've
Yeah.
got the craziest time difference. Like it's quite a flight.
It is quite a flight. And I think, you know what? It's like whenever those moments arise, and especially if you're like an immigrant international founder and like you need to go and be there for your family, just go and do it. Because I think you don't want to look back and regret like not taking that flight or like missing a day of work to be with your family. And it's so easy when everybody's like so locked in and focused and it's so competitive to just be like, oh, I just won't go. But I think just take the flight, take the drive, take the train and see your family.
Even for 48 hours.
Even I literally did just go to London for 48 hours. And the upside of that is I was telling my husband, we could go to Paris for a long weekend. You can do it. But I think that's what I would say is like just prioritize doing it. The world continues.
We forget that so much in our world. Like we forget. We're so, like you said, locked in, grind, 996 culture.
Yeah.
It's like you don't want to give up on that.
Totally.
But yeah, family matters.
Yes, family matters.
And the professional side. Anything
Professional
that comes
side,
to mind.
yes. Okay, so angel investing VC, prior to that, I lived the founder life. I actually only had a job payroll for the first time ever when I just turned 30 and Discord acquired my company. Prior to that, I'd just been hustling my whole life as a founder. And so I think, any founder listening to this knows that like every single day you're getting punched in the face. It's not like if you're going to get punched, it's just like how you're going to get punched. So like you just build so much resilience there. And I've recently, I became a mother and had a baby and like.
Which we're going to get into.
So yeah, I think like on the work front, I was a solo founder. So solo female non-technical founder. I think first time YC let one in. Well, that's what Sam Altman told me.
First and last. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, first and last. And just, when a lot of founders go through that M&A process, and because I was a solo founder alone, it was lonely. And shout out to a friend of mine who in the YC batch was prior to being a founder and M&A banker, and he kind of was my like support when I was running this process. And so I think that any founder that's going through that, like just, reach out, you're not alone, like go find at least one or two other people that can be comrades with you when you're thinking about an exit, because that's a challenging time.
Do you feel like that was the hardest time in the building journey, was going through the M&A process, or was it in the early innings of building? I mean, you've built so many companies, so I'm sure it's hard to pick and choose, but what was the hardest if you had to pick?
I think it's really hard if you've spent your whole life as a founder and your identity is tied up in being a founder. When you then are no longer a founder, you kind of go through this like existential crisis of like, oh wait, this company is not me. Like I am my own person. And that is a challenging thing to go through. And there's a great WhatsApp group that I'm now a part of called Super Founders Club, which is like second time founders or like founders who are now on the other side of the table, which we are both on the VC side, just kind of navigating like that identity evolution is a hard thing. But again, I always just turn to like community support, try and find people who've been through that. And honestly, a lot of great friendships and support networks of mine have come through like random Twitter DMs of people going through the same thing.
Yeah, you need to have that community. I have several friends right now who maybe their company did get acquired. They either shut down, right, or got acquired, but they still have that identity crisis of even like you said, you were payroll for the first time at Discord, like that's weird. You're like, I am an employee. That is an identity shift.
Totally. And like, wow, there is PTO. I have holidays. Like I actually could maybe not work on the weekend. Although I think when you have that mindset and you're so excited, and it's the same for me now working with Jason and Brian at Patreon, like I want to work all weekend and like help build the firm.
It's default.
It's default mode. So yeah, it's interesting to explore the evolution.
Absolutely. So you were saying that Sam Altman said you were the first and maybe only so far, no, I'm just kidding, I think there's been others, solo female non-technical founder accepted into Y Combinator. Why do you think you were accepted when so many others with that exact profile? I mean, total transparency, not many solo get accepted. We see more now. Not that many non-technical get accepted. We see a little more now. Not that many female get accepted. We see maybe a little more now. Why that combo? Why do you think you were the one that snuck your way in?
Should we call him and ask him?
Let's call Sam.
No,
okay, so
no.
Sam, you're on the phone.
I don't actually know. I guess I can just say what I did. So I was in London at the time. This was in 2017, and I'd already raised a bit of seed money for my company in London. And a friend of mine who'd been through YC prior was like, "Oh, you should definitely apply." And I'd known about YC because I'd read Jess Livingston's amazing book, Founders at Work, which inspired the book that I wrote recently.
And tell everyone who Jess Livingston is, for those who don't know.
Oh, yeah, Jess Livingston, co-founder of Y Combinator with Paul Graham. So I'd read that book. I knew about YC. And so I was honestly in my pajamas in my flat in London doing a vertical video on my phone of my YC application. So I don't know, maybe there was some DGAF energy. I don't know. But it's funny now to look back on that when I think about there's hundreds of YouTube videos of people's like YC applications that are, there's a whiteboard behind them with like complicated code written out. And I was just like, what's up? Like, this is what I'm doing. This is how well it's going, and da-da-da. So
it's like refreshing. You were just authentically you. It's like in the age before TikTok where everyone just pulled up a camera and talked. You did it.
Yeah. This was like, I think, people got to look at this in the context of history and the time. It was maybe slightly more contrarian than the other types of application they received. So maybe that's why I got in.
Okay, maybe that's a tip for people.
Yeah.
Contrarian thinking will always help you, You just kind of zig when everyone's zagging.
Yeah.
So you hinted at, which I want to talk about, maybe we'll start here. So Jess Livingston wrote a book that inspired you, and then you wrote a book, crazy cool book, Future of Communities, insane Rolodex of people that you included in the book. Talk to me about why you started a book, what was that process like, and then let's do some name dropping.
Sure.
Let's name drop. Who's in this book, and why did you choose them to profile?
Well, what I'd say is maybe we can also show the website, because the book website is actually just like a real labor of love. And if
the website will be shown.
If you love GeoCities, if you love that era of the internet, there's a lot of blinkies, like Doll's Palace, if you know that. Anyway, website. Designed by Bertie Brands, who just has a new film coming out with A24. So, shout out to her too with her Charlie XCX film. Anyway, the book is called The Rise of Virtual Communities. And it came about because I was sitting at dinner one day with my friend Alice Lloyd George, who's also an incredible VC and founder. And we were talking about relics of the internet and how, are people ever going to remember Club Penguin and have a hotel in Neopets? Like, how are we going to preserve these virtual worlds and communities that thrived and were so a part of our early childhood of the internet? And
Webkins was a personal favorite. Webkins?
Yes,
Webkins
okay,
girl?
yes, I know that. Yeah. I know multiple people did say Webkins should have been in the
it's very American, so I'll give you a pass. It's okay.
Yes. But anyway, Alice was like, well, you should do it. And I was like, okay, I guess I should do it. I'm going to just do it. And so, honestly, I looked at the Founders at Work book that Jess wrote, which is an amazing interviews book that I think I read when I was like 17 at an all-girls school in the middle of nowhere in England. And I was like, wow, Silicon Valley, I should go there. And on the back, it said the publisher, A Press. And I was like, I'm just going to hit up A Press and just see if they want to publish this book. So I think I spent a Sunday writing out, I'm going to do this interviews book. It's going to be with Jason, the founder of Discord. It's going to be with Alexis from Reddit. It's going to be with Sampo from Habba Hotel. It's going to be with... Second Life and all of the really early platforms, and chart this evolution into where communities and virtual worlds have come from and try and track these patterns. Anyway, immediately next day, get a reply from A Press saying, yeah, this sounds interesting. We'll publish your book. And I was like, okay, done. And then I was like, oh God, now I got to actually do this.
Wait, so it was like a cold email because you literally saw the back of Jessica's book.
I didn't go through some sort of long pitch process of let me pitch every publisher. I was like, I just need to get this done, and let's just make it efficient.
By the start of my Sunday and by the end of my Monday, it better be done.
Yeah, and so I literally did founder mode on writing this book, and I just loved the interviews format. And this was obviously Jess's book was pre-podcast, and there's just so much you can learn in a conversation. And I've listened to this podcast before, and there's lots of great conversations with Maya and Rex and a lot of friends, and you get some real knowledge from a 10-15 minute interview. And so I just went about contacting and getting introductions to 15 pretty legit famous founders, and they spoke to me for an hour, 2 hours, and they gave insane wisdom around how do you build successful online communities, how do you architect them, how do you scale them, what happens when they don't go well. I mean, there's like deviant art in there. There's so much like amazing internet lore of these like fan community platforms, and I don't think a lot of it's documented. So it's somewhat niche. You know, I love when people come up to me like at Versi last night saying they liked the interview with the Palace, which was the first virtual avatar 3D chat room, and people could build these worlds. And there's, you know, people don't look back in history enough. History repeats itself all the time. So if you're building an internet community virtual world, you're probably going to encounter the same problems that they did in like 2005.
And I think a lot of the people that have done it are so open and willing to share their advice.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think people are shocked at how often, like, I mean, I feel even this way with the podcast. Like, I have some people that are like, I'd love to come on. And I'm like, okay, are you
it's
sure?
It's actually a great hack. If there's any founders listening, like, people generally like being interviewed. So
especially if you can give them like social clips and like, you know, you have a name, it helps.
Yeah, exactly. So it was such a amazing thing to do, to have this physical relic in the world that's documenting like the history of these incredible platforms that have shaped the internet and a lot of how I think about investing and building. So yeah.
I was going to ask you, like, what is the takeaway from the book, if you had to like narrow it down to one takeaway, and then how does that inform your investing now? Like, is there anything that, it's hard to say, but if you hadn't done the book, you maybe wouldn't be thinking about investing in a specific way?
Yeah, I think that what's glaringly obvious when you read the book, whether it's, you know, the interview with Alexis from Reddit or my friend Trevor, who was building Friends with Benefits, like whether you're building...
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Friends with Benefits.
Yeah.
Oh my God, crypto, yeah.
There's just it's just consistent problems arising with how do you measure community success? How do you ensure that that's impacting the business? And I think it's still really challenging to build really sticky community platforms. And so if anything, I'm harsher on founders who are building in this space, because there's just a graveyard of companies as to like why it doesn't work, because community is sort of an overused word now, and it doesn't necessarily mean what I think the actual definition is. It's been so like over abused as a word. So if anything, I really am kind of questioning of the founders building in this space. It's hard to get to venture scale.
Absolutely. And there's also, I mean, it's not as sellable, but like you could probably write 10 books on all the ones that have failed. You know, interviewing them, they'd have the same takeaways probably, but they didn't make it, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, even the folks that I interview in the book, like a lot of these platforms aren't around anymore.
Yeah, that's true. They did ultimately not last.
Yeah. So I think it's a really, really hard space to build in. I think obviously Reddit and Discord, like two mega standouts, and some really interesting things that they say there. Yeah,
I love it. I wanted to talk about your switch to venture. So you became an employee for the first time at Discord, which we'll talk about in a bit.
Yeah.
But then, you know, you joined Patron, venture partner first, then now this is like your full thing, weekends, nights, 24/7. Why make the switch to venture? I mean, you kind of dipped your toe in, it sounds like, with the venture partner, and then you were like, okay, now I'm going to jump in with the partner. Talk to me about what you like about it, why you made that move.
Yeah.
And, you know, in some ways, I do think when you are so early on at a fund, like you guys are on fund 2, 3, I'll let you just say where you guys are. You know, you are a founder. Kind of like you're building it. It's a small team. You're building something from the ground up. You're building a brand. So I'd love to hear more about that transition and how you're liking it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess akin to a lot of founders, I ended up having other founder friends who are building amazing companies and then thinking, oh, well, I'll just angel invest in your company. And so prior to 21, I think I'd had like 30 angel investments of, you know, tiny checks, but some of those went pretty well. And I started thinking, oh, actually, I kind of like this investing coaching side of the table. I kind of like finding these founders. I'm starting to form like a framework for how I think about like picking founders. And this was all just while being an angel investor. And I just so serendipitously met Brian and Jason in 21, Miami Art Basel.
Whoa.
That's where it's at. Listen, they both got great taste. And so I met them. And
what event were you at? Can you share specifically? Was it like a crypto thing or was it?
It was. So at the time,
You said 2021.
It was 21. It was like peak.
Yeah.
And I was looking after, with a few other team members at Discord, a lot of the crypto and very early AI founders that were starting to build servers on Discord. And so we kind of did this lunch to kind of celebrate and work with those founders. And I think Jason just crashed that lunch with another founder that we have since backed, who's building Rascal Games, and was telling me about the fund. And I was like, wow, I really like you. And then I met Brian and I was like, I like you too. And at the time I had honestly been speaking to a few other bigger platform funds about joining. And I was like, I don't know if this is in my DNA. Like, I am grassroots. Like, I need to be in a small team. There's got to be an element of chaos. Like, I've got so much of that founder energy. And so...
And what were you doing for your day job at this point? Like, when
So I was still at Discord.
Still at Discord, okay.
I was honestly running a lot of different experimental product ideas. So whether it was some of the crypto wallet stuff we were doing at the time, or whether
Discord
it was,
was at the center of the crypto world.
It was a little crazy at that time. And then, Discord for business, Discord for brands, like there was a lot of experiments that I was running. And a lot of the center of gravity for founders at the time was around Discord. And so when I started working with Brian and Jason, we spun up like the Discord patron office. And so we don't have an office. Like, we're so deeply internet native. Like the patron office was a Discord server, and we all had voice channels as desks, and a lot of our founders were in there. We were doing workshops in there. Anyway, but that is, I met them, and honestly, it was more about Brian and Jason being just like amazing people that I really resonated with. And I spent a year working with them. They spent a year working with me. Got to see like, okay, are we a good fit? And actually like, wow, we're all kind of different. We're all kind of complementary. And it's been honestly one of the like greatest honors and pleasures of my career to work with them.
I love hearing that.
Yeah.
That's very special. And hopefully it only continues, right?
Yes. Yeah. In the VC world, it's so interesting because as a founder, you're the CEO and you're running a team, or when you're an operator, like, you're also managing a team. Whereas in venture, it's a partnership, and it's just a different working dynamic. And actually, I think for my personality, it works very well. We all can rely on each other, trust each other, and be independent, but also supportive of each other.
It's so refreshing too, after being a solo founder, to like have people. And there's like so many perks to it, but just like having camaraderie, having accountability, like it's the
and
best.
no politics. I think, I'm surprised by how many of my VC peer friends just complain about the politics of their firms.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel so fortunate that Brian, Jason, and I just have this great relationship that is devoid of political struggle.
I think though, with every firm, there is pros and cons. So like, you don't have the political stuff. I don't have the political stuff. But then you also have the like, wow, we don't have as much of a safety net. We have a lot to prove. Like, we have to touch all parts of the business. Whereas maybe my friends, and probably similar friends who have more of the political stuff, they're just chilling. They're kind of in one lane. They don't have to deal with all the things that we have to deal with.
Right. But I also think that everything that we have to deal with is, by the way, what founders deal with every day.
Totally.
So it's
so identical.
In my point of view, like, it builds much more empathy with the founders that you're trying to win over a platform fund.
1,000%. Well, you also live and breathe it every single day. You know what it's like to be founding a fund, founding a company. So one of the things I wanted to talk a little bit about is your lane at Patron and the things that you're focused on. So I did some stalking, and I found an article you recently wrote, which is brilliant. And I want to read a quote from it right now.
Okay.
Yes. And then I'm going to ask you a question about it.
Yes.
And we're going to dive deep a little bit, because I selfishly have questions.
Okay. Let's go.
Okay. So this is a quote directly from Amber's article. Okay. 10 years ago, the internet still felt like a place you visited. Taste existed as something humans curated for one another. Fashion bloggers posted flat lays. Museum curators selected exhibitions. Editors filtered and packaged culture into glossy magazines. The digital world was engineered to showcase human taste. Today, the digital world is engineered to learn it. But taste is slippery. One of the paradoxes of preference is that we crave novelty, and novelty reshapes our preferences. I'm going to say that last line again, okay? One of the paradoxes of preference is that we crave novelty, and novelty reshapes our preferences. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, well, first, let's start with writing this brilliant article. But I also want to get into your take on the tension between giving people what they want versus giving them newness and novelty that might reshape their preferences, which is a tough balance. I mean, I'll give a quick shout out to TikTok. That seems to have it perfectly for me. But I want to talk about that and your advice and your thoughts on that. So let's start with the article, and then we'll get into more of the content and the meat of what that quote meant.
Yes. Okay. So I wrote this article about building the taste layer. And the idea is, I ended up having a lot of conversations in SF with different AI researchers who are essentially, like, a lot of the hard math problems have been solved on the foundational layer. And so, what's the harder problems to solve now is around, like, how are you building in human judgment, human preference into these systems. And this just led to a lot of, like, cerebral, like, philosophical conversations around how has taste evolved with humanity, and it's ultimately like a social function, I think, of society. And that quote around novelty is really interesting because the way that, like, recommender systems are designed today, like a TikTok or an Instagram, it's based on your touch point. Like, how long are you looking at that TikTok video? Oh, and now you're in a rabbit hole around, like, just the same TikTok videos. Or, like, oh, your Instagram For You page is just, like, all recipe videos, and that's how it works. Whereas in the world of, like, chat-based or voice-based systems, there's not that, like, fingerprint touch print of, like, understanding and learning your taste. So that has to be built in on the back end. And I'm so fascinated by how, small language models, large language models are going to start implementing more tools to help better understand human preferences and taste. And to this point, like, your taste changes. Like, you want something novel, something maybe that you wore 10 years ago, you'd be like, oh my God, I'd never wear that now. And so it's a really, really complicated thing to recommend and build, whether it's, any type of tech software product like shopping or education that reflects your identity and preferences at that time.
Very interesting. How do you quantify your taste? I think this is something that is really, so I'll speak for myself. When I'm planning a wedding, and people ask me, right, what's the vibe going to be? Where is it going to be? What's the dress going to be? What's the decor going to be? All of those things, the way that I answer will indicate my taste. But a lot of these systems are often numerical. And we have a lot more chat stuff that's benefiting off of, obviously language. But how do you... my question here is just tell me more about the inputs and how can people build in a way that quantifies a lot of these sort of, like, esoteric things when it comes to taste.
I guess, like, part of that question is, like, can you learn taste? Like,
is it even possible?
Can humans, can you have friends, right? And you're like, yeah, that friend has good taste. Like, they have good taste. They just know. They know the art, the music, the food, the fashion, the places to go, the places to be. Like, they just quantifiably have good taste. And so I'm so excited about founders who have a lens on taste. And I definitely know 3 or 4, like Marty, who founded Pool Suite Poolside Vacation Sunscreen. Like, he just has a very specific lens on taste.
That's such a good example.
Yeah.
And everyone that's familiar with vacation, you've probably seen it, like, Anthropology. This is, yeah.
And so he's one of the founders that I've been jamming with on this is, like, it's an incredible renaissance time for founders who have taste to use low-code, vibe-code tools to actually create fundamentally, like, new experiences. Like, what would more tasteful AI experiences look like? Because we're definitely not there today. Like, everything looks super homogenous. It's very, like, text-based interface. And that's not the world I want to live in. I want to live in a world that has much more tasteful interfaces and experiences. So I think I'm excited, and this is also, like, the melting pot of New York. Like, there's just founders with exceptional taste here. And so I'm just thinking about those folks who are trying to reinvent on the interface layer, like, what does a more tasteful experience look like? But then also very interesting work happening on the model side of how do you build, low-ranking reward systems. And I talk about some of these papers. I don't think I've ever read so many academic papers in my life, by the way. Like, I dropped out of university to raise money for my startup, and now I'm, like, so...
You're, like, back in it.
I'm, like, reading papers every day around how, like, models are evolving to better account for tone, preference, taste. And I think you're seeing this pushback now. I mean, there was that SNL skit on like how sycophantic ChatGPT can be.
But I didn't see it yet. I need to watch.
Super funny. But I think it's just reflecting in culture that there's got to be an evolution of like tone and taste in these experiences. And I think it opens up this massive sea of opportunity for people to think about opportunity at the application layer to like better package experiences, whether that's in health, shopping, education, like wellness and fitness. Like there's just so much opportunity. And I think that is ripe for the taking for honestly even like non-technical, like design-driven founders, like people, again, who have this lens on taste to rethink what are the mass consumers going to want to engage with from an experience point of view.
We're so aligned on that, but it is a really hot take in Silicon Valley. Like to say that taste is the thing that'll make these founders in the application layer stand out, as opposed to just like the software and the product and like the underlying tech, is like such a hot take. It's almost as much of a hot take as you being accepted into Y Combinator as like solo female non-technical, like, because this is not what we're used to. We're used to like the FANG engineer, we're used to the more like stealthy, nerdy, person building a company, as opposed to the like tastemaker. Like you're talking about.
Well, I think like Browser Company is also a good example of this, like acquired by Atlassian, like great taste. And I'm like, I want to see more of that.
Yes.
And so I think the article, I was surprised by how kind of viral it went within certain communities. And I love that. I'm like, it can be polarizing. Like I just want to, I don't want to speak to everybody. I just want to speak to the researchers and the, design taste-driven founders. And ideally, like part of my role as a VC is like doing those matchmaking, like making those connections happen. And that's, I think, my superpower is like, actually, I do know this person at Berkeley, and actually I know this person in Brooklyn. They should work together.
Berkeley to Brooklyn.
Berkeley and Brooklyn combined. So yeah, I'm super excited about that. And I still think it's so nascent and we don't really know what it's going to look like, but I just have a hunch that there is a lot of opportunity there.
On Trailblazers, we spotlight founders who succeed by doing things differently, not by following the playbook, but by rewriting it. Many of those unconventional builders and the VCs backing them run on Brex because it helps them scale with speed and focus. From smart corporate cards and high-yield banking to AI-powered expense management, Brex gives startups the financial stack they need from day one so they can spend more time building and less time managing back-office operations. More than 30,000 companies, from breakout startups like Anthropic and Cursor to global leaders like DoorDash and Plaid, trust Brex to help them spend smarter and move faster. That's why we, as a venture firm and also the podcast, run on Brex too. Sign up at brex.com/trailblazerspod to get started and claim exclusive rewards. That's brex.com/TRAILBLAZERSPOD. RocketReach is the leading sales and lead intelligence solution trusted by sales, marketing, recruiting, and business development teams to grow their businesses. Whether you're looking for a developer halfway around the world, a C-level executive in New York, or a potential investor in Silicon Valley, we connect you directly. With RocketReach, you can easily access the most comprehensive, accurate compilation of emails and phone numbers on Earth. That puts you in front of the right people faster and backs you up with a database that reaches across industries, markets, and titles, using AI to continually improve the quality of your contacts. With RocketReach, you can reach anyone so you can reach higher. Many of you know I love cold outreach. It's been the root of many of my success so far, and this is the tool that I've used the whole time. Trailblazer listeners get 15% off any plan at rocketreach.co/trailblazers. That's rocketreach.co/trailblazers. What's your advice? Let's say a founder's listening to this and they know Poolside, they know Browser Company. Like we could go on and list many other companies that, are pretty obvious that they have taste. You might not totally love it, but it's clear that they have a point of view and they're really doing things differently. And by the way, attracting top talent because top talent wants to work for not just any company. What's your advice for a founder to curate their own taste level and maybe even a step beyond that, like identify what their own taste is? I feel like it's just something that's so esoteric. It's hard to like hammer down. This is my taste. It's just, it when you see it. Like Browser Company is such a good example. Like, you know it when you see it. Like it's in everything. It's in the comms. It's in the design. It's in everything.
Yeah, I mean, and like Ivan, Notion founder,
classic,
great example of this. Of like, and his wife Yasmin, also shout out, one of the most tasteful people I know. it is this age-old debate of like, can you actually learn taste? And I think there are just certain people who really care about that. And I guess your question was like, if you are a founder, like how do you identify what that is
and make it better?
And make it better is it's probably just like stepping back and thinking like, okay, well, what do I actually like? And that's also not a task that everybody can do. And I think, I have like 10 different TikTok burner accounts because it's so, like, I go down these different rabbit holes into these different worlds of like tone and taste, and like, it's fascinating, like how many subcultures exist. And by the way, some of these subcultures, you think that they're niche and they're actually huge.
Huge businesses that we can invest in.
Yes. And I learned so much of this at Discord is that your taste is tied to your interests, right? Like, anime, webtoons, love and deep space, these are all areas that orbit gaming that we also invest in. And on the surface, as an outsider, you might think that they're very niche, but actually they are huge. And so I think figuring out your taste is often tied to what your interests are.
Totally. I like this exercise too, especially on like the company building side of just like listing out all the companies that you really admire, all the companies you'd want to work for, and then asking friends, what's the through line between all of these? Because I think it's so hard to know why you like I feel this way as a VC. Like when I was first starting out angel investing, I'm like, I don't even have a thesis, but like because a thesis is kind of a form of taste on the investing side. I'm like, I don't know. There's this thing about all these companies, and it's like, putting together what are the words behind why you like, company A, company B, company C, company D. I feel like that's also maybe a way that could be helpful.
That's great advice. And I also like your kind of mantra, maybe it's not a mantra, about elephant companies.
Yeah.
I
appreciate it.
I feel like that's part of your brand. Maybe you could have like a cute little icon for that.
Totally. Well, I think also we're saying very similar things. Like elephant companies are Browser Company, our Notion, our Figma, it's the same concept that like taste is kind of going to be the ultimate moat, and like community is kind of the ultimate moat, and brand and positioning and all that. We all just say it with different language.
Yeah.
So much of it is also about finding people like you in the ecosystem where like we see things similarly. We're just saying it in slightly different ways.
Yeah.
But like when you really get down to it, it's a similar point of view. And I think that's so much of what's wonderful about company building and fund building is like finding your community and finding the people who look at what you're doing and they're like, yep, I get that.
Yeah, and that's kind of all you can do is like I've just been focusing on writing one piece on the Patreon website like once a quarter around an area that like I'm interested in and interested in investing in. For example, AI native shopping, and we've just made an investment in there, an amazing company called One-Off. And then another piece I wrote is around like relationship OS and this idea that like dating apps are over, and now obviously we've seen this proliferation of like voice-based AI matchmaking.
Let's tell everyone more about that because I get pitched one of those every week.
Well, yeah. So I mean, I think that just signals to you that the rise of Tinder, et cetera, was a long time ago, like 10, 15 years ago. And we want a better way to meet people. And off the back of that thesis, we made an investment in a company called Sweat Pals, which is...
Oh, I know Sweat Pals.
Yeah. So, about helping people connect in real life.
In Austin.
Yeah. Over fitness and social wellness events. And I think that has a lot of like macro tailwinds around, younger gen, like not drinking so much, like, but also like not really wanting to use apps to find friends or date people, but also like really caring about fitness. And so I think they're riding this really interesting wave around what does it mean to be the best version of yourself and meet other people today. And a lot of that is like driving to IRL.
Totally. And it's so funny too, because a lot of it is not textbook dating apps. Like, I think that's, in the venture capital world, for those of you who don't know, there's sort of this like, we'll invest in anything that's not in dating because it's notoriously hard to scale.
Yeah.
But these apps are not dating apps, even though people are meeting,
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's like, there's sort of like a secondary intention, but it's advertises something quite different.
100%. And that's totally it. It's like, it's not what it says on the tin, but the underlying incentive for a lot of these users is, actually, maybe I'll meet someone, maybe it will be friendship, maybe it will be romantic, but regardless, like I find a community and it ties in with my interest. And so much of my career and passion has been driven by that, growing up in Hong Kong, like moving around so much as a kid, like having to find new friends, build new communities, understand like nodes in a network. Like that has been my whole life and career. So it was awesome when I met Solar and Mandy, Sweatpals founders, who really were building that future.
They're great. I know them. They're wonderful. Okay, before we get into our lightning round, I do have to ask you a little personal question.
Okay.
So your partner is also a VC.
Yes, my husband, yes.
Your husband. You guys are a power couple in venture. You just had a beautiful baby. What is it like having two VCs in a house? I know a few. Everyone's like usually actually quite secretive about it. I know like I have like a couple friends where it's like a VC partnership, but they have different last names, so you don't know.
Yes,
but
well,
like
that
obviously
is the case for
that's
us,
you guys
actually, too. Yeah.
So I didn't actually immediately know until I did some stalking, and I was like, whoa. What's it like? Two VCs, one house.
You know what? It is, I mean, Vishal, I've never spoken about him on a podcast. So, wow.
Vishal, we're talking about you. Revealing. Yeah.
Is just been so incredibly supportive of me. And because I come from like the founder background, I'm not a career VC. I come very much from like founder builder lens. He just offers that like career VC perspective. And also although he is a consumer investor, he has been spending a lot more time in healthcare. So there is a bit of a wall in terms of like his area of interest and investment is different to mine. It's also generally slightly later stage. So we don't conflict that much. But we do have to kind of draw the line at some point. Like,
because you could be at home being like, oh my God, this deal, they gave me this term sheet, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Especially in SF when like the conversation is generally like
24/7.
24/7. So at some point we have to just like shut it down. And you know what? Having a baby is very useful for that because ultimately
something's distracting in the house.
You gotta go give baby bath, go feed baby. But I think we're pretty good at like being supportive and then ultimately being like, okay, it's time to shut the door now and talk about something else.
I also think it's really important. This is one of my like hot takes on why I live in New York and not SF as a VC, is because I really think it's important to talk to people that are doing things outside of tech and are just involved in other sectors so that it sparks my own creativity. And I'm like, whoa, I never put that together, but you are really deep in the philanthropy world, or you're really deep in the fashion world or the Broadway world, and it helps me think differently.
Yes.
I think that's also probably similar for you guys. You know, he's doing more healthcare stuff.
Yep.
You're obviously doing a lot of like early stage
Yeah,
gaming
exactly.
and community stuff. It might be interesting. Like, wow, I don't necessarily do healthcare that much, but you're seeing this through line. Maybe I should be looking at that too.
That happens a lot. Like even he might be looking at like a security company and I'm like, well, we don't really look at that, but that is interesting actually. Maybe I should think about that idea. And I mean that's also like the case for travel too, right? Like I traveling here to New York, I'm like, okay, new perspective, actually solving new problems for some of our portfolio companies. Actually, that would be good. Although we do have 3 or 4 portfolio companies in New York now, which is why we are spending much more time.
Hence why you're here.
Hence why I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. If you work in venture or startups, you know the constant juggling act. Replying to messages from co-investors, founders, LPs, customers, and teammates all hitting your personal number. I know this very well. We all hand out our cell, which means your EA can't help an iMessage, and important threads get buried. That's why I'm very excited about Quo, formerly OpenPhone. It's built for founders and investors like us who want communication that feels personal but stays organized. Quo gives you a dedicated business line on your existing cell phone. And if you already have a business number, you can bring it with you for free. Plus, you'll get call summaries, transcripts, and an AI voice agent called Sona that can answer and schedule when you're offline. We're actually cooking up something fun with the Quo team right now and using that same voice AI tech in a new way for our firm. More soon, but it's a great reminder that you can use voice AI to stay top of mind of your customers' needs. Quo is trusted by over 90,000 businesses and rated number 1 on G2 for customer satisfaction. You can get 20% off your first 3 months at quo.com/trailblazers. That's quo.com/trailblazers. I've actually used Gusto at 3 different companies, and every time it's been such a relief. It's simple, it's reliable, my paycheck was always on time, no drama. And unlike the big clunky payroll systems out there, Gusto is affordable and designed for teams like ours. Gusto is online payroll and benefits software built for small businesses. It's all-in-one, remote-friendly, and incredibly easy to use. So you can pay, hire, onboard, and support your team from anywhere. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/trailblazers and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/trailblazers. One more time, gusto.com/TRAILBLAZERS. Okay, well, let's get into our lightning round.
Okay.
10 questions, rapid fire. Give me your gut instinct. Don't overthink it.
Okay.
Whatever comes to mind first, okay? Here we go. Book in hand or podcast in ears?
Book in hand.
Favorite book?
Oh, Devine, which is about the greatest art dealer of all time.
Okay.
Highly, highly recommend this book. I actually it went out of print. Sorry, I know I'm elaborating.
Elaborate. Sometimes I elaborate.
Okay. So Daunt Books in London bought the print. It was originally a series of articles in the New Yorker a long time ago. I'm going to say like 40, 50, maybe even more years ago. And this guy basically built the American art market and a lot of really interesting tips for VCs.
Whoa. Okay, how do you spell it? Devine.
Devine, Duveen.
Whoa. If you were to ask me how to spell it, I would have not guessed that. Okay, Devine, got it. Morning person or night owl?
100% morning person. Yeah, 5 a.m. I could be getting up at like 6, 5. And then I do a little reading in the morning before looking at my phone. I actually still get the Physical Economist and Physical Financial Times, super old school.
Wow.
Yeah. And then
I feel like that's British of you. Like,
yeah,
I feel like I think of British. Yeah.
You know what it is, I think?
What
it's
is it?
like wherever I have been in the world, whether it's like South Korea, like India, New York, you can always find the FT and it's kind of like a source of consistency.
Totally. It's familiar.
And it's familiar. And so, I'm still old school and I like to start my morning with like some physical news before I get into like the newsletters and the Twitter verse.
Which also I feel like can be so micro, and like the FT can be more macro, kind of what's going on outside of our little bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Cooking dinner or ordering in?
I will say that we're now on like one of these meal delivery services. So
And you like it?
Actually, yes. We tried all of them, and then this is like a smaller like chefy outfit in SF, and they deliver our meals. And honestly, it's just like a godsend, especially with baby.
Oh my gosh, it sounds brilliant.
Oh, we have been trying to cook, once or twice a week.
Okay, so it's kind of a combination of cooking dinner or ordering in. It's like you cook it, but it's pre-prepped. So you're
Yes,
kind of
it's
ordering it
pre-prepped. Yeah.
Okay, we'll give you cooking dinner.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll give it to you. Okay, VC or bootstrapping?
Well, I'm going to say VC. Although I think now there's a lot of founders who should just be bootstrapping and not raising VC. VC puts a lot of pressure on you to go very fast, go very big, and you don't need that type of capital pressure if you want to just have a $5-10 million plus lifestyle business.
Totally. Maya was here and she's like, listen, all you guys need is a laptop and a dream. And I was like, we need that on a shirt.
Yes.
We need that everywhere.
A laptop and a dream.
Pretty good, right?
Yeah, but on the other side of the table, what you need is patron leading your seed round.
That's true.
And getting to 100 billion plus company.
Exactly. And Patron's an amazing partner to VC, so please partner with us too. As like a little asterisk.
And mic drop.
Exactly. Networking dinner or big conference?
Oh, I'm so like a small networking dinner. Does anyone actually answer conference?
Yeah.
Okay, well, shout out to those people.
Some people really I think the big conference is great, especially on the speaking side, because you can knock out a lot of all these people in the audience might convert to customers, might convert to investors.
Yes, okay, probably as a fan. I love hosting like small dinner parties at my house with like a few founders, maybe some later stage founders, like some other investors, and curating like a really small group. And honestly, like a lot of the patron events that we do have that artisanal taste. So earlier in the year, we're doing a lot of like mahjong nights at like other founders' houses. And so I think we try and do these like small, cool things.
I feel like it's a really great way to also insert your taste, just to bring it full circle. But like the way an event goes, how you communicate before, how you communicate after, what the questions are asked during, like the vibe of the group. It's a great way to, and again, this is hard to quantify, but to like subtly showcase what your POV is as a firm.
Yeah.
Or as a company if you're doing that too.
I mean, yeah, all of these things are like taste touch points about who we are. So yeah.
Taste touch points. That's like your next essay. Okay. Hire slow or fire fast?
Both, actually. I think you need to do both. You need to be very intentional about hiring the right people, and then if they're not right, you fire them. Don't hold on.
If you had to pick, which is more important?
No, the thing is, if you hire too fast, you're going to just,
You got to pick.
Oh my goodness.
I know. You can also frame it as like, which is more catastrophic if you don't do it, right? You can like flip it on its head.
I think I just got to do the firing one, I think. Like, it's just, that's, I think I've seen so many founders suffer by not letting go of somebody who is not aligned with the company and letting them stay around too long.
Yeah. Okay. 10 small wins or 1 big moonshot?
God, these questions are so hard because
that's the point.
Like, 10 small wins. I'm like, yeah, you got it. That's what life is every day as a founder. Like small little wins that like incrementally compound to get to the moonshot.
But you help these questions help people understand how you philosophically think, because our guests give answers to both. They just rationalize it. So it's whatever comes to mind.
Yeah, I know you said don't think through this too much. I think to me, it's going to be the small wins every day, actually, because I think ultimately, if you do that every single day, that is the path to the moonshot.
Yep. It's foolproof, right? Stacking small wins. Being early or being right?
Being right. I think a lot of the time, history has proven being first doesn't always mean that you are the best. It happens with companies, happens in art. Often it's like the second or third company in the space that actually ends up being the venture outcome. So
there's so many studies around this. It's so interesting. Like even just for everyone that's listening that maybe doesn't know as much about like tech trivia, like even think about like how lame Lyft was at one point or how lame Hulu was at one point. And now quite comparable with the other players in the space. Never post on socials again or never fundraise another dollar again.
Never post on socials again. 100%. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I definitely want to be I need to be raising more dollars. So if that's the
trade-off, then social, goodbye.
Goodbye, social. Hello, raising more dollars.
I think in this question too, we can still keep your blog. So
thanks.
Can you keep your essays?
Okay, good. Because I really do like writing. I have
and you're good at it.
Actually, to that point, I did basically delete social media.
Oh, okay.
And then I kind of got back on it. But for like 2-3 years, I was just sending a Substack newsletter to my friends about my life. And that was it. Because I love writing. And yeah.
And did you not have Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn?
I wasn't using it. Wow. Yeah.
That's amazing. Maybe that's good.
It was really nice, but then my friend started teasing me that you're like Amber, you're like a Midwestern mom. This was pre me being a mom. Like just sending a newsletter being like, and the kids are great and they're like at hockey and and then like I realized that it was a good one-way form of communication, but then I wasn't getting like all the updates from my friends' lives. So I had to get back on the gram.
Totally. That's the hard part about those, long form. People are like, okay, I skimmed it, glad you're good. But then you don't get their updates.
I'm like, what's your update? But you know what? There should be something in that where you should be able to like AIify an update on your life back. So it's easier, less 100%. Friction.
I mean, voice and chat touch points, we were just talking about it. Like instead of everything written, there's something
if
there.
You're building in that space, DM me.
Patron will lead your seed round. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. AI hype or AI fatigue?
I mean, I'm just going to still be on the hype train, honestly, because I think we're still so early. And like to that conversation earlier, like the hype I'm interested in is this like taste layer hype.
Absolutely. The right kind of hype.
Right kind of hype.
Yeah. All things in life. I feel like that's like a good metaphor. The right kind of hype. Okay. How can our listeners support you? So obviously we've been hinting at it, but if you're building something in these spaces, maybe hit you up, give everyone the rundown on where you are. If you still have social media downloaded. Right
yes,
now?
Yes. I mean, listen, I'm a LinkedIn girly now. I'm just going to say it, Like,
there you go.
I still, I'm on Twitter, obviously. I'm there. But, like, LinkedIn for me is where I'm at these days. But either or. Drop me a little LinkedIn comment.
Okay. Comment on a post. Maybe send a little DM.
This sounds like an engagement plea. Like my post on LinkedIn.
That was actually, we had a guest who came on and they were like, how can we help? And she was like, she's a really big content creator. She was like, comment on my stuff, like helps the algorithm, helps me get paid. And I was like, that's free and easy.
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, ideally I should be finding you, like my job is actually to slide into your DMs as the founder. So, accept my DMs.
There we go. Amazing. Thanks for being here, Amber.
Thank you so much.
This was so fun.
Loved it.
On Trailblazers, we're always talking about multiplying your impact, and that's exactly what Athena helps you do. Athena pairs you with a world-class executive assistant who becomes a true force multiplier for your business and your life. Working with my Athena assistant has been transformative. Gab was instrumental in raising Park Rangers Capital's fund in ways that I could have never imagined an assistant could contribute, from closing six-figure checks to identifying new LPs we should meet to matching my tone perfectly in follow-up emails. He's elevated my capacity as a founder by giving me more time to focus on the highest leverage work. Athena isn't just about scheduling meetings, it's about unlocking leverage. Hundreds of founders, investors, and executives trust Athena to free their time and scale their impact. Athena is offering our listeners $2,000 off for their first year of service and priority onboarding. And you want that, trust me, there's a very long wait list. When you're ready to multiply your impact and free up time for the things only you can do, go to athenago.me/Erica-Wenger. That's athenago.me/ERICA-WENGER. Thanks so much for listening to the Trailblazers podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. You can also support our work by sharing it with a friend or leaving a quick review. It helps more contrarian builders find us. For more on Park Rangers Capital and our community of elephant founders, head to parkrangerscap.com or find me online at Erica_Wenger. Until next time, keep trailblazing.